very welcome.
Thank you, thank you. I do feel something of an intruder actually standing here, having heard a wonderful series of talks about the fantastic capabilities of the Scandinavian life science industry. And I think it'd be a very thankless task for me to try and persuade you that the UK can do the job any better than you can do. So I'm not even going to try and do that. What I want to talk about really is the opportunity for collaboration. And one of the earlier speakers today talked about the importance of collaboration, and particularly the importance of international collaboration. And I think it's becoming increasingly clear in this increasingly complicated pharmaceutical universe we live in that no one single company, no single country almost, has all the necessary resources and capabilities to develop a drug portfolio right from research all the way through to clinical trials and marketed products. So collaboration is becoming increasingly important, and I would like to suggest that the UK makes an ideal partner for Scandinavian companies to partner with. So the UK government has become aware over the last sort of 12 months of its new term of, first of all, the importance of the life science industry in the UK, but secondly, the need to perhaps energise the life science sector. And clearly there become a number of issues to do with financial circumstances and changes in the pharmaceutical industry over the last decade that are really sort of driving new strategies. So the UK government has now recently unveiled a new strategy for UK life sciences, which I want to talk about today. And in addition, in the recent budget, which occurred last week, a number of new fiscal measures were identified, which should hopefully again energise and enthuse the life science industry in the UK. So just sort of stepping back for a moment to talk a few facts about the UK. I'm sure you're all very aware about some of the basic research capabilities of the UK, and the UK scientists have been awarded something like 17 Nobel prizes over the years, second only to the United States. And in fact, Cambridge University scientists have been awarded more Nobel prizes in all sectors than any other institute in the world. And four of the world's top 10 universities are in the UK. And in fact, those UK universities are the only European universities within the top 10 of global universities. And with about 1% of the world's population and about 3% of the world's gross expenditure on R&D, the UK produces something like 4% of the world's researchers, 6% of the world's published articles, and 11% of all citations. So we do have a fantastic research base, and the pharmaceutical industry in the UK has historically been one of the major drivers of the industry in the UK. But clearly we're in a very changing world, and there have become enormous problems associated with the pharma industry, not least because of the changes in the nature of pharmaceutical R&D. We're all very aware of the graph that sort of shows the increasing cost of drug development coupled with the decreasing number of approved drugs by the FDA. And clearly the pharma industry is something at a crossroads where we need to be identifying new business models and new science models to drive the industry forwards. There are also, of course, pressures on healthcare budgets, increasing aging populations. There are emerging markets that are producing hugely competitive areas of work, but also other enticing investment opportunities. And finally, of course, there's competition within Europe, and other European countries like yourselves are changing the way to do business and changing the regulatory requirements that make things difficult for the UK, certainly. So all these sort of changes then require certain changes in the way the UK does its business. And there became a realization that essentially UK possesses two overriding resources, one of which is that sort of history of very good basic research, which perhaps in the past hasn't been coupled to very good developmental capabilities, and on the other hand, the capability of the National Health Service, which is still the world's largest publicly funded healthcare system, with enormous potential providing resources, data, information to assist with healthcare research. And also we have a government that's come in and say with this mandate and a remit to try and stimulate the life science industry. And I've been very impressed, although working as a civil servant I mustn't take political sides, but I have been very impressed by the interest and enthusiasm the present government has shown for the sector, and the particular life science strategy that has been identified is, I think, a particularly interesting and stimulating strategy document. So this is the document itself. It is a fascinating read of about 100 pages. So if you find you can't sleep at night, feel free to download it and read through it. The aim of the document really is to try and identify a strategy to enable the UK to become a global hub for collaboration, a global hub for investment, a global hub for life sciences, providing an unrivaled ecosystem, including business people, research workers, clinicians and patients, to translate discovery into clinical use. And the key phrase there, I think, is the idea of translation from discovery into clinical use. So the idea is we're trying to move these sort of basic discoveries forward into a clinical setting and find a commercial setting. And I think that's where the particular strategy document it has some exemplary examples. So, as I say, it's something like 100 pages long, and feel free to download and read it. What I've tried to do over the next 3 or 4 slides is really identify some of the top 10 actions coming out of this particular strategy document. And there's no real way to make it exciting other than by reading the list out. But what I'll do is go through these sort of top 10 actions, then talk a little bit more detail about a few of them to try and identify what impact they're going to have on, first of all, UK life sciences, also hopefully global life sciences. So firstly, the major investment in 2 particular areas, £130 million being invested in stratified medicine and £180 million being invested in a biomedical catalyst fund, which is to enable funding of early stage research through the translational route into commercialization. One key area that's been identified for further funding is regenerative medicine, and this is being funded in 2 separate ways. First of all, by setting what is called a Technology Innovation Centre, or a Catapult Centre, focusing on cell therapy. This is being funded with £10 million per year, and is being set up in London literally in the next few weeks. And then secondly, investing £25 million over a 5-year period in basic research through the usual UK research councils to fund basic university-based research into regenerative medicine and stem cell technology. There's £75 million being put into European Bioinformatics Institute, which is based in Cambridge, and including the Sanger Centre and the EBI. Also try and build activities, commerce, partnerships, collaboration between the UK and China. China's been identified clearly as being one of the leading countries for the future to work with. So a large sum of money is being set aside to try and develop partnerships, particularly in translational medicine and again in biopharmaceuticals between the UK and China. A further area of investment is in a national resource for experimental medicine, which is being set up 3 universities in London, Leicester and Cambridge, to try and build together a significant database of biomedicine resources, which can be accessed by people wishing to do clinical trials. And a whole range of financial incentives, perhaps one of the most important one being the tax credits, the R&D tax credits, and a range of other measures that have also been introduced with the recent budget. There's a clinical trials gateway that's been relaunched, again as a single portal to enable companies and clinicians to identify resources within the UK to conduct clinical trials. And a rather sort of profound change in the National Health Service Constitution, changing the use of patient data from opt-in clause to an opt-out clause. In other words, unless you say otherwise, that anonymized data generated by the National Health Service will become available to clinicians or commercial organizations wishing to develop innovative therapies. And finally, 2 independent life science champions have been identified to drive the strategy forward. Now, on top of those sort of top 10 actions, I've also included 2 other regulatory aspects which also have a significant effect on the industry. One is for the MHRA to bring forward proposals for what they call an early access scheme, which essentially is to try and solve some of the problems of the delays in bringing drugs to the market, to enable patients suffering from serious diseases to access some particularly important drugs, innovative drugs, up to a year earlier. And then finally, working with manufacturing industry, again, to ease some of the regulatory burden associated with innovative manufacturing technologies in the sector. So that's a brief sort of run through of some of the key points, and just to pull out sort of 2 or 3 of those as being worthy of some further note. And 2 areas which I think really sort of identify where the UK is going in terms of the industry itself. First of all, the whole area of stratified medicine and personalised medicine. There's coming increasing realisation that with the increasing costs of the industry, the increasing healthcare costs, then personalisation of medicine is likely to be an increasingly important way forward. And this, of course, represents a challenge to the pharma industry and a challenge to the healthcare providers. So £130 million is being invested in this area of stratified medicine or personalised medicine, really to kind of support some of the discovery, development, commercialisation of research in this particular area. So the intention is to try and fund collaboration between academia, industry and clinicians, again to build on this translational aspect and try and move ideas from the basic research into the clinic. And that includes a particular interesting open innovation platform allowing research workers to access compounds already developed by AstraZeneca that have either been in clinical trials or are being essentially put on the shelf and are not being developed due to lack of funds, enable research workers to take on board some of those particular compounds. I mentioned the Cell Therapy Technology Innovation Centre. Again, this represents a major focus of the UK government, trying to put money into an area of great strength already, regenerative medicine and cell therapy. The major focus of the Cell Therapy TIC, the Catapult Centre, is not necessarily to conduct independent research work, but really to look at some of the underpinning technologies, such as manufacturing, quality control, and some of the safety and efficacy concerns. The Biomedical Catalyst Fund is perhaps the most important area to talk about, and this is an early stage fund being targeted at what they call the funding gap or the valley of death, trying to support early stage research ideas or early stage startup companies as they move from that basic idea towards commercialization, to enable funding to be put into those entities before they can attract significant VC funding. All these particular fiscal schemes, funding schemes, are in early stages, so the details are not necessarily totally clear yet, but more and more information is being generated about how these schemes are going to work and how they can be accessed by research workers and small companies. I'll skip over that one. In addition to some of the scheme identified, there's also two major infrastructure projects that are ongoing and are being funded through sort of central government activities. First of which is the Francis Crick Institute, which is going to be a world-leading, world-class medical research centre set up in North London near St Pancras, King's Cross area, currently being funded by the MRC, CRUK, Wellcome Trust and University College of London. It'll house about 1,250 scientists, and the intention is to build that into a highly productive critical mass of scientists working on some of the basic molecular biology, cellular biology areas within the sector. The other major infrastructure project is the development of the Addenbrooke's campus. For those of you who know Cambridge, on the south side of Cambridge University's Addenbrooke's Hospital, which is already home to the Laboratory of Molecular Biology, the Wellcome Trust, and a number of other organisations. That site is being redeveloped currently to try and build a science city to try and attract both further academic organisations, private research institutes, and also, importantly, a number of commercial organisations. A lot of these proposals have been brought in parallel with changes in the National Health Service. There's been a major report, which again can be downloaded off the internet, to talk about trying to generate innovation within the National Health Service. So many of the life science strategy protocols are being put in parallel with the National Health Service changes to try and work together with the National Health Service to try and build that very effective life science sector, combining the attributes of the two sides. And then briefly going to the financial stimulus package that's been unveiled in last week's budget details. So the Patent Box is a program that was initially unveiled a month ago, and has been under discussion. And essentially the Patent Box is an opportunity for companies to put aside some of the profits to pay reduced corporation tax on income streams derived from innovative work based on technology that's been patented in the UK. So in other words, if a company conducts research in the UK, patents that particular technology, and at a later stage generates products from that, which then lead to a profit and an income stream, then that corporation tax rate is reduced to 10% rather than the current standard 24%. So that makes a huge difference, of course, to many high-tech companies who are looking to commercialize technologies based in the UK. And the first big investment from that literally happened a few days ago, where GSK confirmed an investment of £500 million in innovative manufacturing sector, starting with a new plant to be built in the Lake District in north of England, with further £100 million investment in other sectors over the next few years. So already one fantastic result from that initial proposal. Then finally, two other schemes: an innovation investment fund, which is a funding scheme being set up, which essentially puts money into a fund-of-fund type approach. In other words, money is put into a fund administered by other fund holders who then identify particular opportunities to invest into. And that's already, over the last few months, made a number of significant investments into biotechnology companies. And finally, a capital investment fund, and this is intended to build up the infrastructure within the UK by putting money, leveraging support from charitable and private sectors to build more effective infrastructure in terms of laboratories, buildings, and further developments within the university sector in order to build up the capabilities of the life science sector. So what impact is going to have on the life science sector? Well, lots of very, very positive impacts. So first of all, the Biomedical Catalyst Fund, which is going to try and tackle that sort of valley of death, the gap in the funding scheme. The Seed Enterprise Investment Fund, which I haven't talked about, which offers a discounted income tax relief on investment into high technology activities. The above-the-line R&D tax credit being introduced next year, again to attract investment innovation. We talked about the patent box, which will have a vastly reduced payment of corporation tax on income streams from innovative ideas. The Innovation Investment Fund to invest into small companies, and the Capital Investment Fund to invest in infrastructure in the sector. And finally, we have very strong support from central government, an affirmation statement there of the importance of the life science sector in the UK. So that was a very brief canter through the life science strategy. There's a huge amount of information both in that presentation and also in the original strategy document, and I'd be delighted to either answer further questions about it, or perhaps more sensibly, if you wish to ask further questions outside this hall today, or please contact either myself or my colleague Christina Bergstrand, who's in the audience down there, who is based in Stockholm. I'll be able to tell you further information about the programme. But we'd be delighted to build on this and look forward to further collaborations with the Scandinavian, particularly the Swedish life science industry, to try and build the capabilities of both those countries.
Thank you very much, Nigel. Whittle, thank you. Impressive measures, impressive figures putting into life science. When will we here in Sweden notice that you're on march?
I think the changes are happening now, actually. I'm very pleased to see. So some of those particular protocols have been put in place already, and things are moving, and things are really being sort of regenerated in the UK.
Okay. Any questions, Nigel? No. I forgot a present. 1 second here. A piece of art from Sweden. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And now